You wake up, you go through the motions, you work, you scroll, you sleep, and somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet question refuses to go away. Is this it? You're not lazy, you know that. You've tried things, you've made plans, you've started over more than once, but the bank account still looks the same, the life still feels the same, and the worst part? You can't figure out why. What I'm going to show you in this video is something most people alive today have never heard, not because it's secret, because it's 2,000 years old, and it explains precisely why you feel stuck and exactly what to do about it. Here's what this video is going to do for you. By the time it ends, you'll understand the single mental pattern that keeps most people financially and emotionally stuck for years, sometimes forever. You'll know why willpower and motivation are not the answer, and what the Stoics discovered actually is. And you'll have 3 specific shifts you can make, starting today, that will begin to change the direction of your life. Not in theory, in practice. These aren't concepts invented by a motivational speaker in 2019. They were forged by people who faced actual war, actual poverty, actual loss, and they still built extraordinary lives. If they could do it then, with none of the advantages you have right now, you can do it now. Let's get into it. Around 300 BC, a man named Zeno of Citium lost everything. His ship sank, his cargo gone, his fortune gone, his plans for his life gone. He washed up in Athens with nothing, and instead of rebuilding the same life, he did something strange. He started asking questions. What is actually in my control? What is not? And what does it mean to live well, regardless of circumstances? From those questions, an entire philosophy was born. Stoicism. It spread from the streets of Athens to the halls of Rome. It was practiced by slaves like Epictetus, who owned nothing but his mind, by generals like Cato, who chose death over compromise, and by emperors like Marcus Aurelius, who led the most powerful empire on earth and still felt the pull of self-doubt, frustration, and stagnation. Marcus Aurelius wrote about feeling stuck, about waking up and not wanting to get out of bed, about the gap between the life he had and the life he wanted to live. He was the most powerful man alive, and he still fought the same battle you're fighting now. That's what makes Stoicism different from every self-help book published in the last 20 years. It wasn't written for people who have it easy. It was written and tested by people for whom failure was not abstract. It was life and death. These are the principles they used, and here's the first one. The Stoics identified the source of almost all human suffering in one insight. They called it the dichotomy of control. Epictetus, who was born into slavery, who had no money, no freedom, no rights, wrote this: "Some things are in our control and others not. In our control, our thoughts, our choices, our effort, our response. Not in our control, the economy, other people, outcomes, timing, luck." Simple, almost insultingly simple. But here's what's devastating about it. Most people spend 80% of their mental energy on things they cannot control, and almost no energy on the one thing they can: themselves. Epictetus was born a slave in Rome around 50 AD. His master once twisted his leg, slowly, deliberately, to break it. Epictetus looked at him calmly and said, "You are going to break it." The leg snapped. Epictetus didn't flinch. He said, "Did I not tell you that you would break it?" That is not a story about pain tolerance. That is a story about a man who had mastered something most free people never do. The understanding that his master could control his body, but never his mind. Epictetus was eventually freed. He became one of the most sought-after teachers in Rome. Emperors sent their sons to study with him. He owned almost nothing. He lived in a small house. He said it was the best life he could imagine. Here's how this plays out in your financial life right now. You're worried about inflation, about whether the job market will recover, about whether your boss will give you a raise, about what the market will do, about whether you were born into the right family, the right city, the right circumstances. All of that is real. All of it is valid. None of it is in your control. What is in your control? The skill you decide to build this month, the hour you spend learning instead of scrolling, the one conversation you could have that you keep putting off, the application you haven't submitted, the budget you haven't written. The Stoics didn't say external things don't matter. They said spending your energy worrying about them is the fastest way to guarantee you never change them. This week, take one piece of paper. Draw a line down the middle. On the left, everything about your financial situation you cannot control. On the right, everything you can. Most people never do this, which is why they spend their entire lives reacting to the left column and ignoring the right one. The right column is your entire life. Start there. The second reason you're stuck is one most people never see coming. You are trying to go around the obstacle. The Stoics said, go through it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, in his private journal, a book he never intended anyone to read. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Read that again. What stands in the way becomes the way. Not something to endure, not something to avoid, the actual path. When Marcus Aurelius became emperor in 161 AD, the Roman Empire immediately faced a catastrophic plague, then a flood that wiped out crops, then a military crisis on two borders simultaneously. He had inherited the most powerful empire in the world, and on day one, it was on fire. He did not look for a way around it. He used the plague to restructure Rome's medical system. He used the flood to reform grain distribution. He used the military crisis to build a stronger, leaner army. Every obstacle became the mechanism for the solution. He wrote Meditations, arguably the greatest personal journal ever written, during a military campaign. In a tent, at night. The obstacle was the way. Most people who are financially stuck have an obstacle in front of them. Debt, a dead-end job, a skill gap, a fear of investing because they got burned once. And the thing keeping them stuck is not the obstacle itself. It's the story they've built around it. I can't build wealth because I have debt. But the discipline required to get out of debt is the exact discipline required to build wealth. They're the same muscle. I can't find a better job because I don't have the right experience. But the frustration of being undervalued is the exact fuel needed to build the skill that changes that. The Stoics didn't say this to be poetic. They said it because they watched it happen, over and over, in real lives, with real stakes. The people who changed their circumstances were not the ones with the fewest obstacles. They were the ones who stopped treating the obstacle as a reason to wait. Take the one obstacle you keep citing as the reason you're stuck. Write it down. Then ask, what skill, habit, or action does overcoming this obstacle require? Because that skill is the one you need anyway. The obstacle isn't blocking your path. It is your path. The third shift is the hardest, and it's the one that changes everything. The Stoics had a concept called Amor, Fati. It means love of fate, not acceptance, not tolerance. Love. It means treating everything that has happened to you, every failure, every setback, every wrong turn, not as something to overcome and forget, but as something that was necessary, something that shaped exactly the person you need to be. Nietzsche wrote about it. Marcus Aurelius practiced it. Epictetus embodied it. And it is the most counterintuitive, most powerful mental shift you can make if you want to stop feeling stuck. In 64 AD, Rome burned. The Great Fire destroyed 10 of the city's 14 districts. Hundreds of thousands of people lost their homes, their businesses, their savings. And out of those ashes came something remarkable. A new Rome, with wider streets, better architecture, fire breaks built into the city plan, the version of Rome that would stand for another 4 centuries. The fire was catastrophic. No rational person would have chosen it, but the Rome that emerged from it was stronger than the one that burned. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together." This was not naive optimism. This was a man who had buried children, survived plagues, fought wars, and watched everything he built face collapse. He still chose to love his fate, because he understood something most people never do. Resistance to what has already happened is the most expensive thing you can spend your mental energy on. Here's what Amor Fati means for your financial life. Every financial mistake you've made, the bad investment, the debt that got out of control, the opportunity you missed, the year you lost, is not weight you carry forward. It is information. Expensive information, but information. The person who loses money investing and spends years in bitterness about it, that person learned nothing and gained nothing. The person who loses money investing and says, "What did this teach me?" that person just paid tuition. Your past financial situation is not your identity. It is the raw material. The Stoics would look at your life right now, exactly as it is, and say, "This is perfect," not because it's easy, but because it is exactly the set of circumstances that, if met with the right response, will produce the person you are trying to become. Write down the one thing about your past you resent most, the decision, the year, the person, the mistake. Then write one sentence beneath it. One thing, just one, that you are because of it. That's Amor Fati. Not pretending it didn't hurt, refusing to let it have been for nothing. If what we talked about today resonated with you, I want to give you somewhere to go with it. The ideas in this video, the dichotomy of control, the obstacle is the way, Amor Fati. These aren't summaries I invented. They come directly from one book, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. It is a private journal. Marcus Aurelius never intended it to be published. He wrote it for himself, as a daily reminder of the principles he was trying to live by. And it is, in my opinion, the most useful book ever written about the human mind and how to direct it. It's not a long book. It's not a difficult book. But it is a book that rewards rereading, because every time your life changes, you'll read a different passage, and it will mean something it couldn't have meant before. If you've never tried Audible, you can get Meditations completely free as your first audiobook. The link is in the description below. I'd also recommend Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way, a modern companion that takes these Stoic principles and applies them directly to careers, money, and ambition. Both links are below. Both are free if you're a new Audible member. Start with Meditations. Even one page a day will change how you think. The Stoics believed that the examined life, the one you look at honestly, take responsibility for, and choose to shape, is the only life worth living. You already started that process by watching this video. That's not nothing. If you want to keep going, if you want more of this, Stoic principles applied to real life, real money, real decisions, subscribe. I post every week, and I don't waste you time. The next video is on the Stoic approach to money specifically, why most people's relationship with wealth is built on fear, and what to replace that with. It's right there.